Hey guys, welcome to Bastion Time. I am your host Bastion. Let's bash something? I don't know. I don't have an intro. I'm totally changing this whole channel, and frankly I wish I could come up with a new name for the channel, but it's kind of ingrained in there and I don't like changing things after they're so set in stone. So anyway, story time, right? So let's talk about the previous video we did was coming out to myself and then coming out to my friend Amanda and then a couple other friends, one of which was my high school crush. That created a whole interesting senior year, let me tell you, but that will be the next video. This video is coming out to my mom and various other people. So this is a weird one because unbeknownst to me, my mom had been snooping around in my bedroom and had found reliable data 2 years before I ended up coming out to her. So she knew for 2 years before I actually told her. With this video, we're actually going to be fast forwarding way past the next video and so on, because this takes place 2 years later. Basically, I misspoke in the previous video. I said that I had first come out to my best friend Amanda. That's not necessarily the truth. Even before then, I had come out via a letter to a different friend of mine. And this friend is kind of hard to explain, is a famous writer. He's straight, he's not gay or anything. I didn't come out to him because he was gay. I came out to him because I could just tell that, first of all the people I knew, he would be like one of the most accepting because he's just very open-minded in general, as you can tell from his books. And then also because I figured, what's the worst that could happen? He just doesn't reply to many of my letters. That would suck, but at least it's not something I'd have to deal with in person on a daily basis or anything like that, right? He became my favorite writer when I was in junior high, and I sent him a fan letter, and for whatever reason, he responded to me. I think you could tell that I needed to talk to somebody about some stuff. And I responded, and he responded, and basically every other week, we had letters going back and forth. So it just seemed natural that this was going to be the first person that I told. And so I did. I phrased it in a weird way. The way I phrased it was, I think I might be, but I'm not totally sure. So his response wasn't like, you are, congratulations, or anything. It was like, well, if you decide that you are, or discover that you are, or whatever, then, you know, hey, no problem. My best friend and the best man at my wedding was a gay guy, and blah, 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 and, you know. Anyways, very supportive, but it was from the perspective of, well, if that's what you end up figuring out for yourself, because that's how I had phrased it to him, that I'm not sure kind of way. So anyways, my mom was at work at the lunch in her break room or whatever, and she saw somebody reading one of his books. He is a New York Times bestselling author. People know who he is. And so she was like, hey, let me brag for a little bit because my kid is pen pals with this guy. He's like one of, good friends with him and blah, 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 blah. And the guy was like, what? No way. And she was like, I will prove it. I'll bring one of the letters. Can you already tell where this is going? So the letter that she decided to bring was the most recently arrived one. She didn't ask my permission or anything. But, that's how mothers are, I guess. So the letter that she brought was the one where he was saying, hey, if you are, you are. No problem. And so she knew 2 years before I told her. So now let's fast forward 2 years into the future, and I'm at my first year at college, and I am home for winter break. And this is very embarrassing to admit, but I was totally in an online relationship with somebody that I'd never met. I had not had an actual boyfriend at this point, and so I don't even know how we met online or whatever, but the really sad part is it turns out I'm pretty sure I was being catfished. I was very young and naive and just wanted to believe. So anyway, that's sad. But I was very giddy. And she was like, we're at Costco shopping, and she was like, you're acting really weird. Are you like in love or something? And I was like, I wouldn't say in love, but I mean, there is someone that I like, and this person is very attractive and nice and sent me a Christmas present, for goodness sake, and we barely know each other. And she was like, oh, tell me about this person. And so it was very clear to me from her also using gender neutral terminology that she just straight up knew, right? So I knew going into it that she was going to be okay with it. I knew because she, again, like I had mentioned, had friends who, well, at least a friend at that point in time who was gay. She had, we used to watch this TV show together. This character was like contemplating coming out to their parents. My mom paused it at one point, and this is so painfully obvious. I don't know how I did not understand what was going on here, but she paused it and she was like, it's really sad that she doesn't feel comfortable telling her mom and dad. Like, if you would tell me, of course, because we're so close. And I was like, yeah, of course, we're super close. Of course I would tell you. I'm not, but I totally would tell you if I were. She like gave me permission right then and there, and I totally did not take her up on it. So anyways, it was super clear that she knew those 2 years before I told her. But anyways, we left Costco and we were heading home, and then I was like, Mom, can you please just pull the car over? I need to talk to you about something. And I'm sure she knew exactly what it was. So she did, and I told her, and her reaction was interesting. It wasn't like in that movie Love, Simon, where they're just like, we're so proud of you, or whatever. It was more like she was crying, and she was very honest about some things. She was like, oh, I'm just worried that I'm never going to have grandchildren, which is a very selfish worry on her part, but hey, at least she's being honest. And that's ridiculous because, of course, I could still adopt or even, whatever. I could still have children. And then she was also like, the one that annoyed me, though, is the one where she was like, oh, and I'm just worried that you're going to die from diseases. And it's like, hold on now. First of all, that's literally physically impossible, considering I was not doing anything at that point in time. And I knew myself well enough to know that I'm so obsessive about health kind of stuff that even when I was active, I was not going to be putting myself in any situations where that could happen. So I tried to reassure her about that. But for the most part, it was pretty reasonably positive. I mean, I kind of lucked out. I've definitely dated some people who have had some really awful, extremely bad circumstances. Let's just say there are some religions out there still to this day that view it as I'm not going to talk about which religion this is, but basically their stance on it is, we understand that biologically that's what's going on with you, but come on, you can't be doing that. So you either have to be celibate for the rest of your life, or you just still gotta marry a woman and make a family, because that's the all-important thing, because their whole religion is centered around what happens after we die. And theirs is a little different than typical Christianity. In their version of the afterlife, it's all 100% based on this celestial family. I'm totally giving it away which religion this is that I'm talking about. Your family is more important in the afterlife than it even is here, because basically it has to be a man and a woman, because you have to be physically creating spirit babies, and that's a whole topic for a different video. But the point is, because of all of that, it's just not accepted at all still in this day and age. So thankfully, even though my mom was super Christian, I still lucked out enough. She has said in the past some very worrisome things, but nobody's perfect. She has tried to use it as leverage a couple times, like specifically when she was telling me some stuff about her religion, frankly, and I was not going for it. She was like, well, you just need to be more open-minded and accepting, because I'm accepting of you having a boyfriend or whatever. And it's like, those two things aren't connected at all. Like, you were already accepting of that, and if it's contingent on this other thing, then if you don't want to be accepting, you don't have to be. That's a whole other thing that we can talk about. My mom has, by the way, since passed away. She passed away a little over a year ago. But I would like to say that up until her passing, it seemed like that was becoming less and less of a thing that she would actually fall back on. For the most part, the only truly annoying thing that she ever said was, this was a really long time ago, was that she really wanted to meet the person that I was dating at the time. I'm not with that person anymore. And she was like, but could you please just not kiss them in front of me? And I was like, that is weird, because first of all, I'm not into PDA at all, so that was not gonna happen. But if it was a girl, she would have never said that, right? It's only because it would have been a guy. For the most part, I had lucked out with her. Certainly much more so than a lot of horrible stories I've heard. And so I'm very curious about your stories. If any of you are LGBTQ or whatever, how did you fare on this whole telling your parents situation? Or maybe you haven't because you're worried about how that's gonna go, in which case I say don't. If you're worried, don't. Until you are comfortable and safe. Anyways, that was my experience, and it was pretty reasonable. And it helped that she admitted this to me, that she had 2 years to get used to it. She said she cried about it and mourned about it for 2 years, so she was able to get that out of her system before I finally spilled the beans. But anyways, that's it for this episode. See you guys tomorrow, probably tomorrow, for more story time. Bye, guys.